a very good, a very great session, because already we have our guest speaker in the house, okay? Today, before we do that, I'm just gonna call on Lara Yeku to give us a few words before we bring in the guest speaker. Lara, take it away.
Wow, thank you so much, Dorothy, for that start. Quite interesting. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I want to specially welcome you to our May edition of HR Gems Coaches Network Interactive Session. My name is Lara Yeku, founder of HR Gems Coaches Network. This edition is really special because it is for us to commemorate the International Coaching Week, which is organized globally. And for us, it's an opportunity for us to learn once again. You might ask me, what does HR Gems mean? So HR Gems means Great.Excellent.Minds. We are a community of HR professionals learning transformational skills as change drivers in the work of now. We believe in transforming ourselves first to enable us to transform and make impact to our world through techniques that empower us, skills, methodologies, strategies, such as coaching, to enable us optimize humans to their full potentials in the workplace. This evening is another interesting transformative learning session. It promises to be an exciting time. We have a special guest with us this evening. I'm really excited to have her. I just want to employ us to take away all forms of distractions around you. Be present, relax, and enjoy today's transformative learning journey with us. Once again, thank you. And thanks for making out some time, and I look forward to an exciting time. I'm glad to have you join us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Lara, for that very short introduction of the HR Gems. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for this. Our guest speaker for today is a really, really special person, and we are indeed privileged to have her in the house. I'd like to take a few moments to just read her profile. Our guest, like you already know, is Mrs. Titi Akisanya. TA, as she's fondly called within professional circles, is an internationally experienced senior HR professional and management consultant with over 12 years experience in banking and 27 years experience in human resource management and consulting in mature and emerging markets within global and competitive environments. TA graduated from the premier university in Nigeria, University of Ibadan, with a BA degree in language arts in 1980 and a master's degree in organizational and speech communication from the New York University, NYU, New York, USA in 1983. She has worked with Universal Trust Bank, Exim Bank, USA, Philips Consulting, Accenture, formerly Anderson Consulting, and with the Coca-Cola Company, where she worked in various roles. She was appointed HR Director for CPS Africa, a subsidiary of the Coca-Cola Company, a position she held till December 2010. She then started her HR and management consultancy practice in 2011 as CEO of Theta Alpha Consults Limited in Lagos, Nigeria. TA is also a certified executive coach and an insights discovery licensed practitioner with a Bates Executive Presence certification. She has the West African license for Coaching and Mentoring International, David Clutterbuck. She is an international mentor with Aspire Trailblazing Women, UK, and she was the immediate past president of International Coaching Federation, Nigeria chapter. TA sits on the board of some organizations and is currently the vice president of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, CIPM. Recently, She was made an associate faculty member of the Global Team Coaching Institute. TA's vivacious style and expertise in delivering leadership development and transformational leadership programs, in addition to her core energy coaching model and emotional intelligence sessions, have transformed many managers to leaders. With her HR experience in mature and emerging markets within global and competitive environments, she has worked with and led virtual and geographical dispersed leadership teams in Fortune 500 companies. TA is also known for her courageous leadership and thought agility to achieve desired changes. She's been married for 39 years and blessed with children and grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to unmute yourselves and please give a resounding warm round of applause to our guest for this evening, Mr. Titi Akisanya. Welcome, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dorothy. And thank you very much, Lara. I see quite a number of familiar names here. It's a delight to be here with you. And this is one of those days I love being a woman. Because if you had seen me 10 minutes ago, I had my gele on and all that because it's my nephew's wedding today. So I had to step out of the wedding, come inside the car, and then when I found that the connection wasn't good, it was like, okay, let's take a detour to my office. So talk of being dexterous, or I mean, I can imagine if someone at the wedding pops in now to see me, is like, what's happened? Anyway, it's Saturday, and thank you so much for making out time to join this session. Like Lara said, it's International Coaching Week. And what we try to do as professional coaches during the International Coaching Week is, as much as possible, to give what we call the gift of coaching. The gift of coaching. Coaching is a gift, whether it's paid for or it's pro bono. But this afternoon, I want us, because I don't know whether we have mixed crowd in the sense that we're not all HR people. So I'm going to come into this presentation with that assumption, and therefore make it easy for those who are not HR inclined, or perhaps you've always looked at HR at a distance and wondered, why are there too many women in HR, right? So, and I noticed there's so many in our midst, so you're welcome, because HR has gone on to embrace diversity and inclusion. So the role of HR in organizational coaching. The way I'm going to look at this is to look at HR from the perspective of coaching within the organization. In other words, coaching the line managers, empowering the line managers and letting them know what coaching is, and imbibing coaching skills in the line managers. The second perspective I'm going to come from is the understanding that even some of the certified or professional coaches that may be in an organization are HR people themselves. Thirdly, let me come from the angle that if you are also an HR generalist and you don't know what coaching is all about, or you think you know, because being an HR generalist, we say, oh, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, I'm a counselor, I'm a therapist, you're Gugwe. No, you're not Gugwe, because coaching indeed is a profession. So let me, with that kind of background, let me move on by giving the definition of coaching. Coaching is a method of facilitating another person's learning. It's a method of facilitating another person's development. It's a method of facilitating another person's performance, but in a non-directive way. So whether you're an HR generalist or HR specialist, when you use coaching in the workplace, outside the workplace, it's simply a method of facilitating someone else's learning, their development, and their performance in a non-directive way. What do we mean by non-directive? You don't tell people what to do. And that's the shift, ladies and gentlemen. If you can get that shift from now, it will help us, because leadership or our organizations are being used to command and control. And so the line managers, the supervisors, they're used to telling people what to do. You do this, go there, and things like that. But coaching is non-directive. And when we facilitate, it simply means through coaching, we enable people to come to their own solutions. They come up with their own solutions to their problems. They develop their own skills, and they're able to change their behaviors no matter how old you are. Recently, I started coaching somebody who's 78 years old, right? And it's just as interesting as coaching somebody who's 45 or 28 as well. So through coaching, people are able to change their attitudes, access their inner wisdom, and so they build up their confidence. So coaching is a process really where we're creating awareness. How do we create awareness? Through the questions we ask, right? And I love the quotation by John Whitmer that says, coaching is unlocking people's potential so they can maximize their performance. And John Whitmer was one of those early coaching gurus that spoke about coaching for performance and bringing it into the workplace. I'll tell you more about that later. The International Coaching Federation, of whom some of us belong, some of us here on this call belong, define coaching as a thought-provoking and creating partnership. Why is it thought-provoking? Because the nature of the questions we ask provokes a new measure of awareness or creativity or thinking. So ICF says coaching is a thought-provoking and creative partnership that inspires clients to maximize their personal and professional potential. So it unlocks previously untapped sources of imagination, productivity, creativity, development, leadership, or whatever. So even by that definition, I simplify it by saying coaching is about curiosity. Never mind, they say curiosity kills the cat. When we coach, we don't kill our clients, right? We just inspire them and wake up new levels of awareness. So coaching is not about fixing you or telling you what to do, and by the way, coaching doesn't focus on the past. I often hear people say, I should have done this. I should have married someone else. I should have done an MBA. I should have, ladies and gentlemen, should is past tense. And so we don't focus on the past when we coach. Imagine this. The analogy of coaching comes from that derivative word, a coach. A coach is a vehicle, like a train. You enter it from point A and it takes you to point B. If you ever take a train or bus or whatever, and instead of moving forward, it starts moving backward, what will you do? You'll quickly get down at the next point and say, this one, oh girl. So coaching is about moving people forward. And it's because we believe you are whole. The way God has created everybody, God has created a measure of resourcefulness and creativity in us. We all have potential. So coaching is non-directive, it's future-focused, and it's really about your agenda. We always say the coachee or the client is the one in the driving seat. So it's really about moving you forward from your current state to your desired state. I hope those who are hearing these definitions for the first time are getting a sense of what coaching is, because many times people think coaching and mentoring are the same. No, they're not, because mentoring, a mentor is somebody who's been there, done that, seen that, and all that, and is now passing on this information to the mentee based from their own perspective, so that the mentee can walk within their paths. So coaching is revealing. And what we always look for as coaches is how can we break through the individual so that we can bring out the best in them. So what do we do as coaches? Of course, primarily we ask questions, evocative questions, not provocative, questions that evoke a measure of awareness. Coaches listen and listen attentively. I always say a good coach is the one who listens to the words behind the words. Coaching is about challenging. When a client says, oh, I'm stuck, oh, I can't move forward. So we challenge them and we say, if you were to move forward, what would it look like? What would it feel like to move forward? Coaching is about championing the cause of our clients. Coaching, what we do as coaches is we, through all these questions or listening or challenging or championing, we make our clients think. They reflect. You know, I always like those moments when we're coaching and I ask a question and the client says, you know, that exhale is so deep, right? So as a coach, what else do? We support transition. So this COVID thing has affected the whole world. A lot of people have transitioned from one job to another, from one location to another. Yes, what I mean by that is you've transitioned from working in the office to working full-time at home. That's a major transition, right? And what do coaches do? We evoke transformation. It's always about creating that level of awareness. Now, there are various researches. If you Google online, go to the ICF website, I mean, coaching works. It's been tried and tested. Thank God we now have data. 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, we didn't have robust data. But it shows you that coaching is growing rapidly. 10 years ago, there were only 3 niches in coaching. You were either an executive coach or leadership coach or a life coach. Today, coaching has grown so much that we now have various niches. We have a wellness coach, we have spiritual coaches, we have fitness coaches, we have trauma coaches, and so on and so forth. So coaching is growing, and it's because it's increasing productivity, it's improving people and transforming lives. And of course, for organizations, they can see the difference. So with that as a background, let me bring us home as HR people or friends or lovers of HR. I'm sure some of you will remember Dave Ulrich's 4-role model, where he describes HR as administrative expert. That's how we start, keeping the files, the records, you know, and things like that. And then you morph into the employee champion, go into employee relations, you know, and things like that. Employee relations has broadened today to talk about employee engagement and diversity and equal opportunity and inclusiveness and all that. And then you morph into being a change agent. Any little thing HR does is about changing, impacting change or transforming within the organization. And it's through the kind of talents that come in, the job descriptions, the org design, the kind of performance management systems in place, and all those things we do to enable a healthy work environment. And then I'm sure many of you will be familiar with this because 15 years ago, more or less, was when a lot of us, 15, 20 years ago, was when we came into the strategic business partnering role. HR as a partner. HR sits on the table and speaks the language of the business so that we're well respected. We know the numbers, we do the analytics, and because we understand the business, we're able to impact the various strategic designs of the organization. And so it impacts culture, it changes, and we have a new respect. We have a voice and we're respected. And so this slide is also saying that we've come a long way from that 4-quad kind of role model that Dave Ulrich introduced us to. We have evolved, we call ourselves talent managers in some of the specialized areas. We have comp and ben, people specialized in comp and ben. We have people specialized in just culture and change. Some of us are strategic architects, but then the processes and the systems that we know in terms of the HR value chain are still there. So we are looked at as a business ally and a trusted ally as well in terms of operations, all-round operations. So some of you may know what we call the HR value chain. And the HR value chain simply means from the time an employee comes into an organization to when they leave, what happens to them. So we are custodians of that value chain, of that process, from staffing, recruiting, all the things we do when we recruit. Once they come in, what do we do? Onboarding with the line managers, performance management, and what have you, and all the benefits program. Now, some of you may remember that all these things will not work if we're not regarded as credible. Credibility is very important. That's how HR evolved in building more tenable relationships across the whole organization. And so we call ourselves credible activists, not activists like Oshomolio, but credible activists. We have the voice of the employees and we lend the voice of HR as well. Of course, HR has also evolved because I know some of you here are members of SHRIM as well, like me. SHRIM is the Society for Human Resource Management, the equivalent of CIPM in America. And when SHRIM came up with its competency model, it was like, whoa, look at all these competencies here. Communication, relationship management, ethical practice, HR expertise, HR people being knowledgeable. Do you know the end-to-end of HR? Whether you're a specialist or a generalist, do you know every aspect of the value chain of HR? Then the business acumen, understanding your business. I remember in Coca-Cola, it was very transformative for me because before I joined Coca-Cola, I thought Coca-Cola was a marketing company. They spend so much money on adverts, they sponsor Olympics, World Cup, and things like that. And you see all those trucks that Nigerian bottling company has, But as soon as I came in, it was like, two different things. Number one, Nigerian bottling company is separate from the Coca-Cola company, or what in Nigeria we call Coca-Cola International. Nigerian bottling company, they're just our bottlers. So we own the trademark. We have the products. Yes, we have the secret formula and all that, and we sell the ingredients, the liquid parts and the dry parts to the bottler, and then they bottle. But because it's a brand, it's the trademark, we're responsible for the marketing. So I thought Coca-Cola was a marketing company. Little did I know that, yes, it's very much part of your FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods organization. So understanding the business. So as soon as I understood that, the second thing was, so how do we make money as an organization? And I realized that primarily we make money from marketing, the adverts, all right, but we make money because those patents, those products, we own the formulas, so we make the liquid parts, the dry parts, and sell it to the bottler. Oh, that was such a change in perspective for me. And so I'll tell you how impactful it was. You know, if you're working in an organization where your company gives you free products at the end of the month, right? Lara is smiling. I'm sure flour mills, they give you rishi, you know. So if you're working in a company where they give you free products at the end of the month, now please make sure it's the product that is well priced and is driving equity pricing and everything in the market, driving your EBITDA that you're giving the employees. So I had a shift. Before they'll give us, some people will say, I want water, you know, lucky them. Me, I always want Coke. I still love my Coke. I still drink my how many bottles a day. I won't tell you. You can find out from those that know my secret of how many bottles of Coca-Cola I drink a day, right? But the minute I understood how we made money, you know, in those days, they didn't say I drank. If you go and visit someone, if you say, "What would you like to drink?" What would you say? Give me Coke. And then somebody will say, "Oh, we don't have Coca-Cola, but we have Fanta, we have Sprite." So Coke was like the brand, the iconic brand. Why? Because we made more money. Or we make, well, I've left the company, but I'm still there more or less. So we make more money from Coca-Cola, right? That changed my perspective. And it was like, so why do we give people water at the end of the month? We need to drive volume so that we can drive EBITDA and return on invest and bottom line results and all that. So that changed my perspective. We started giving Coca-Cola instead of just water or Sprite, those things that we don't make too much money from. And once you understand the business acumen, you're able to make critical evaluation. That's the example, that's the story I just told you now. And once you're able to make critical evaluation of what's going on in your organization and the environment, you're able to look externally to worldwide and even the cultural effectiveness, you know, and things like that. What are the cultural nuances of pushing a particular product during a particular time or festival of the year? Shrim also talks of HR competency in the area of leadership and navigating. We're showing people the way. And if you're showing people the way, then you better know your audience. And we're also consulting. We're inside the organization, but we're internal consultants, and you cannot be effective at consulting if you don't have good communication skills. I'm an ardent fan of people speaking well, enunciating the words, and being well respected because of how they speak. Now, the competency model has evolved. Look at what has happened. Look at that red, the credible activist. Look at all those things on the upper triad here, the total reward steward, human capital curator, culture and change champion. You know, the names have changed with times, right? Being a strategic positioner. Are you always strategically positioning yourself? I remember when I worked in Accenture, when we redesigned the onboarding program, especially for new hires, one of the things I would say is Accenture or Anderson Consulting puts you closer to the boardroom than any other organization. And people are like, what does that mean? It simply means if you come in as an analyst, yeah, if I'm going for a board meeting with a partner or whatever, you come with us, you sit there with us. You're taking notes, so you're the one doing the photocopy, you're the one doing all the errand kind of work. But guess what? You're in the boardroom with those powers that be, those decision makers. So that's the exposure. Accenture gives you from the very word go. Look at those three at the bottom: compliance manager in terms of policies, analytics designer and interpreter. Do you know how to interpret your data, how it impacts the business? And of course, technology and media integrator. I love how these names have changed. Recently, Dave Ulrich released his 8th version of the competency model. Look at what we have here. If you can take a picture of this slide, please take a picture of the slide. So it says you have to accelerate the business. If you don't know the business, how can you accelerate the business? So it's about knowing the business is about getting competitive insights. What's your competition doing at home and abroad? How do you influence the business? I hate it when HR people say, oh, really, is that part of HR? That means you are not on this train. No? You are in the old school HR, where it's about hire and fire, personnel management days, right? HR has evolved. In fact, there was a study that said HR professionals are one of the 3rd highest paid workers. Yes, it's an esteemed profession, right? When you accelerate the business, it's about getting the right things done. It's about agility. Some people these days call me Madam Agility because it's like, oh, yeah. Let's think differently. Let's put on a fresh thinking cap. Another competency is about advancing human capability. How do you develop that talent? How do you drive that talent and make sure they're accountable? Your performance management system is aligned. How do you deliver those HR solutions so that it's not a one cap fits all? Who are the cash cows in your organization? Are they people, specialized skills, or departments? And then, of course, mobilizing information in today's world, pre-COVID, post-COVID, it's about leveraging information and technology. It's about using data to make decisions. How you're advancing your digital technologies, and how you're guiding your organization in terms of the social agenda with employee engagement and all that. Today's HR is about fostering collaboration. That's about managing yourself. If you can't manage yourself, you can't manage managers or others in your organization. So fostering collaboration is a very important competency for us in today's HR, because it's also about inspiring trust and respect and building strong relationships. Everywhere I've worked, I still relate to the employees, especially those who have left as well. I mean, in Accenture, so we belong to the Accenture alumni, the Coca-Cola alumni, and when we meet, it's like it's almost like we were still walking on the corridors in those offices. That's about fostering strong collaboration and relationships. And look at what's there: simplifying complexity, making sure things are so easy and well understood for people so you're able to think critically and harness uncertainty. Remember, we're in a VUCA world. VUCA simply means volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And I learned VUCA in 2000 when I joined Accenture. And they would say we're in a VUCA world. Can you imagine? So we haven't left a VUCA world. The volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, the ambiguity is ongoing because we're dealing with people. So having gone through all that to rejig our understanding of HR, how do we bring it together in the workplace? Coaching starts off with a simple tool, the GROW model. And the GROW model is, again, if you can take a picture of this slide, the GROW model is really how you're getting people in your day-to-day conversations on the corridor, anywhere and everywhere, starting from you as HR professionals and then infusing it into your line managers. How do you get people to talk in the format of a GROW model? G for goals, right? So somebody says, oh, I'm so frustrated. I really don't know how to move on in this team. And you can just ask a question and say, what exactly is your goal? What are you trying to aim at? You know, like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think habit 2 says begin with the end in mind. So when we coach, when we're talking, so we're so wired. Once you hear a statement, it's like, okay, what exactly are you trying to achieve? What's your end result? That's your goal. And once the person says it, it's, so help me understand what's happening to you right now. That's the current reality. Where are you right now? Okay, so if this is where you are right now, and that's the goal you want to achieve, what options can you come up with? And then they come up with various options, and you keep saying more, you know, what else, you know, and things like that. And if they say, oh, I'm stuck, then you bring in your coaching genius and say, imagine if a friend came to you with the same problem, what would you say to them? And then their eyes light up and they come up with more options. And then the more options, the better, because they're drawing from their own creative genius. You're raising the level of awareness. And then you want to hold them accountable by saying, out of all these options, okay, tell me which are the top 3 or low-hanging fruits you would deal with. And then they start prioritizing. And then to hold them accountable, in those early days of coaching, I like saying on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being your lowest, 10 being your highest, how committed are you? Ladies and gentlemen, HR in organizational coaching is learning the language of the GROW coaching model. It's always the starting point, even for line managers as well, because it's about raising awareness and making them accountable or responsible. So John Whitmore talks about the coaching equation, and which is very relevant in organizations. He says performance equals potential minus interference. Performance, that's your ability to get results, your KPIs, your KRAs, or whatever, your targets. You know, performance is anything like those achievements we write on our CVs, you know. Performance is anything and everything that you do to achieve results. So performance is about your results. And he says performance equals potential. You cannot achieve anything without a measure of potential. And that's why in today's HR, we do competency-based interviews. We're testing for particular competencies. We're not just looking at the generic competencies, we're looking at the technical competencies or functional competencies. And so your creative genius is brought to bear through your potential. God has given all of us a measure of potential. So it's how do you unearth it? And it takes a skilled coach to help you. But look at that equation. It says potential minus interference. Interference is anything that's getting in the way of you achieving your potential so that you'll achieve your results. Interference is a barrier. Interference are limiting beliefs. Oh, I can't. Nobody in my family has ever been the first. We're always second. Okay. So what says you can be the first? How about being the first for once? You know, interference are those limiting beliefs that are rooted in our cultures. Oh, a woman doesn't do this. Deliver yourself now. What a man can do, a woman can do better, Abby. Right? Interference is anything and everything that's getting in the way of your potential. And if all we can teach our line managers is this simple equation, then you've already started embedding coaching as an HR person within your organization. Now, the danger, and I always love this when I'm coaching executives, And I say, do you think you yourself can be an interference? In other words, you're a barrier to yourself, as well as your team, as well as your organization. You're a barrier as a wife, as a husband, or even as a child. You're a barrier to even your friends, those that are close around you. Now, I always love it. You know, earlier on, I said the highlight of my coaching experiences is when there's that light bulb effect, that aha moment. When I say, are you getting in the way of your own potential? Or are you getting in the way of the potential of your team members, of your wife, of your husband, of your children? It's always an aha moment. I love this quotation. So it's correct. I mean, it's performance equals potential minus interference. So that when we're coaching, we let the client realize that if the goal is about getting results or performance, right? So what's your current reality? What's getting in the way? And what are the options you have to remove those barriers so you can exercise or attain your God-given potential? One of the ladies I love in coaching, Marcia Reynolds, she was formerly the president of International Coaching Federation. Marcia recently released a book, very good book. Please order it. The Kindle copy is, I think I'm reading it for the third time now. And each time I finish, I leave the copy, I buy another one. Because when I read, I don't like reading electronic, I underline, I fold the edges of the pages, and things like that. Her book is titled Coach the Person and Not the Problem. Imagine that in the workplace. People come to us in HR, oh, I have a problem. Oh, I need to take a leave. What's happening? Oh, my house help. I don't have a house help, and all that. And if you wear your coaching hat, is like, imagine if you had a house help now, what could you do differently? Or okay, now that you don't have a house help, what could you do differently? Of course, we know that what we can do differently is work from home. Thank God for COVID, right? Marcia's book says, coach the person and not the problem. Powerful, because once you coach the person, the problem is solved. And in that book, she talks about a new competency in coaching, which is called reflective inquiry, where you're making the client reflect as a result of the kind of questions you ask. I love evoking awareness. I love using metaphors. People say things like, oh, I'm between the wall and the deep blue sea. And I say things like, interesting. Tell me more about the wall. They said it. I mean, I'm between the wall and the deep blue sea. So tell me more about the wall. What does that wall look like? And then I say, tell me more about the sea. How deep is the sea? What color is the sea? And it's amazing how they go on and on. So reflective inquiry is about letting your clients or people at work, enable them to focus regardless of what problems they bring to you as an HR person. And you're following all the steps that Marcia puts here, which is similar to the GROW model. So coaching as an organizational capacity is something we need to start imbibing, and it has to fit our organizational culture. HR needs to start infusing coaching skills as part of management skills. Training topics like the leader as coach or the line manager as coach, or just at focus group sessions or meetings, teaching people to articulate their why. Why do you want this done? Why do you want to hire 2 new people in your department, knowing very well that we have a high recruitment freeze, So it's about scaling up in terms of those high value conversations, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, if we bring in coaching as a management skill, oh, be ready to model the behaviors. And those behaviors are better be aligned to your leadership competencies or even the core values of your organization, so that your organization is a learning organization. It doesn't mean everybody is going on training. It means you're learning from one another. And as you learn from one another, you're co-creating. So everybody, I mean, like they say, iron sharpeneth iron, right? That's what a learning organization means. Okay. So as I round up, as HR people in organizations, we can coach on anything and everything. You can coach on time management. Somebody comes to your office, oh, my workload is just too much. Oh, I'm breaking. I need more hands, you know. Or is it when you become a new manager or you are transferred to a different environment or culture? Is it about conflict management or ethical issues, right? You can coach on anything and everything. I mean, the joke a few years ago was when I started saying, even now I sit in my office, I look at a plaque here, and I would say I can coach a fly on a wall. I look at that fly, and it's like, you're this fly. Who sent you? Okay. You look beautiful, you're this fly, you know. I'm not saying it out loud, though. You have to be careful. I'm sitting in the reception and I'm looking at the fly because you have to be careful. If you are talking out loud, they'll think, something has happened to this madam. So there's so many things. You know how somebody is thinking because they're smiling, right? I'm looking at the fly and I'm smiling, you know, and I'm asking all sorts of questions to the fly, you know, and I'm preparing myself for the meeting I'm going to go inside to have, right? ICF, International Coaching Federation, we have competencies for coaches, and that's why coaching, the way it's growing, you had better be certified. You had better be a professional. Don't join the bandwagon and say, I'm a coach. You know, everybody is now a coach. A comedian is a coach. An imam is a coach. A pastor is a coach. In fact, it was when everybody was calling themselves a coach. Years ago, I said, this is the way to go. This profession is going to go places. It's going to become so sound. And that was why 4 of us got together to start ICF Nigeria chapter. Now, ICF is moving from 11 competencies and they're cascading it into 8 competencies. They've completed the work now. And these 8 competencies will be rolled out later on in June next month. And if you look at it, the 4 buckets, the one I like most because the foundation is good, you know, co-creating the relationship, you know, it's good. A and B in HR, I call it the being of a coach, the essence. You know, in French, when I speak my French, it's the raison d'être, the reason for existence. That's what A and B is, those competencies there. And then the C and D are now the doing part of being a coach, where you're communicating effectively and you're cultivating learning and growth. And I guess that's part of why Lara invited me to this session, because she did remind me that when she introduced me to HR Gems 2 years ago, my commitment was twice a year, I'll make sure I'm part of you to impart knowledge. So HR in organizations, lastly, I'm sure you cannot do all of this without a measure of emotional intelligence. And like I said, being a coach, the emotional intelligence you cherish most is self-awareness. The more self-aware you are, the better for you, even in terms of being a trusted advisor or credible activist, you know, and things like that. Once you're self-aware, you're able to self-manage. Once you're able to self-manage, you're able to manage any kind of relationships. I do some work, I've been doing some work in Ethiopia since 2013. From the time I'm in the plane, once the pilot announces we're about to land, my psyche changes. I stop being a Nigerian. I automatically become an Ethiopian. And I'm remembering some of my Amharic sentences, my French nuances, and all that. And then when I'm in the office with my clients or with the AU, I slow down my rate of speaking. And I make sure my tone is even, I'm soft spoken, because that's how they are. If you go there as a Nigerian, you even raise your voice, like some people in some parts of the country, they look at you as if, So relationship management also leads to social awareness. These are the things we need to bring to bear. And so if it may help some of you, if you go to work tomorrow, especially as we're going towards media reviews, these are the kind of questions you can start asking one another or even your line managers or your business partner. If they say something like, oh, media review is coming, oh, what a hell of a time. And just ask them, what do you mean by hell? Why would you describe it as hell? What are you trying to make happen next month? What's the most important decision you need to face in preparing for your media reviews? What's keeping you from making it? Or what area under your responsibility are you most satisfied with? And by the way, once you ask the positive, always ask the reverse, least satisfied with. In much the same way, when you ask what are your strengths, ask what are your, I don't like saying weaknesses, what are your opportunities for development or developing your strength that you don't have now, right? What do you wish you had more time to do? That's really talking about time management, coaching around time management. And of course, I always love these last two questions. If you had to consult with this bank or this company or this SME or whatever, what would you advise? Or if you were competing against this bank or company, what would you do, right? And of course, we know that the kind of questions we ask when you're coaching, first of all, they're open-ended questions. Questions that start with who, what, where, when, which. Earlier on in my days, I learned about coaching without realizing because I loved Richard Quest of CNN. In those days, it would go, who did what, where, and why? I just loved him. But when I came into coaching, I knew it was like, so Richard Quest is using open-ended questions, coaching questions, right? Coaching questions that are not non-judgmental, non-leading. I was at a board meeting or a review this morning, and a lot of people were asking questions to the presenter. They were saying, why didn't you, you didn't do this? Or why didn't you? Please don't ask questions that start with why. And as they said it, I could see the presenter trying to maintain his cool. Because why is insultive, is invasive, it's the judgmental. It's almost like you're saying you don't know what you're doing, guy. And then, of course, reflective questions. And of course, you should avoid closed questions. Closed questions are those ones that the answer is just simply a yes or a no. It doesn't move you far. Whereas in coaching, I call it a dance. We want to enjoy this dance for either the 60 minutes coaching session or 90 minutes, or these days that I do team coaching, for half a day or 3 hours that they're doing the leadership meeting. Just enjoy the dance. It's a dance. Enjoy it. So in closing, ladies and gentlemen, for us as HR professionals, we must first of all be ready to upskill ourselves. So if you're learning coaching the way it should be today, it's a new thing, but take it further. Be ready to disrupt yourself with knowledge, acquire knowledge, Google it, the videos to listen to. In ICF Nigeria chapter, we have said every month where we have a meeting, we'll first of all do an educational theme. We'll educate ourselves so that we can sharpen the soul. And then we'll talk about the business of the day, or we start with the business of the day and then educate ourselves. So be ready to disrupt yourself. Ever since CIPM used that theme 2 years ago, I fell in love with it, because for us in HR, change management is all about disruptions, whether you're ready or not. Number 3, be an enemy of the status quo. In other words, pursue a growth mindset. And all these things I'm listing here, by the way, if you had to have a conversation with a business partner or a line manager tomorrow, this is how you introduce coaching to them as well. Understand the value of regular and sustained conversations with employees, especially more so now that we're working from home, or hybrid. Of course, enroll our training sessions on coaching or coaching for performance. Acquire easy-to-use tools that facilitate preparing, conducting, and following up on productive coaching and feedback conversations like the GROW model. Build your confidence and competence in managing interactions. One thing I find, especially with women, is the confidence level. And this is what I love about coaching female executives. It's to build up our confidence, let your voice be heard. Oh, don't worry, they can throw the stones or whatever, but be confident in your own skin, in who you are, who God has made you, and where your goal is, your focus. Keep your focus. So build confidence and competence in managing relationships across the organization. From the time in those days, from the time I'm entering the gate, whether the driver is driving me or from the security gate, I'm greeting them. The cleaner comes to empty the dustbin. I'm greeting her. I'm greeting him. Manage interactions, build them, provide tips for anticipating and addressing difficult employee conversations. Don't push back on those difficult conversations. Don't say, this one is just for the line manager or for the HR or pata. Apply concepts of coaching and feedback in day-to-day practice. And always align anything and everything to the core values, because these are behaviors. Coaching is about changing lives. It's about behaviors, transforming lives. Align things with your vision statement, your mission statement, or your strategic agenda. And of course, lastly, since we're the custodians of people, what are the behaviors we want to reinforce? How will they be observed or measured? And if nobody is modeling those behaviors, what are the consequences? Are line managers just going scot-free? I mean, we have some line managers that are very good at shedding blood, casualties, Even by the time they leave the organization is still bleeding because of the management or the leadership style. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope I haven't taken too much of your time. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have learned something. But please go back to your organization, starting from even your house where you are this weekend and when you go to church tomorrow, because coaching is a way of life. Start imbibing some of these things. I said build confidence and competence in managing interactions. I remember years ago, I used to say to myself, if I was invited to Buckingham Palace today, will I be afraid? The answer is no. Let me even bring it home. We go to events And then all of a sudden, somebody comes to you and say, you're going to give the closing remarks. And you say, me, okay, or I'm unprepared. Never say that again. Be prepared. Maybe because I was a girl's guide in school. You should be prepared in season and out of season. In HR, you're the glue for the organization. So we have to be prepared, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll stop there so that there'll be time for questions. Thank you.
Wow.
Sorry for taking
wow. No, not at all. Wow. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Excellent presentation there. Excellent
Wonderful.
teaching.
Wonderful. Thank you, team.
I must say.
Transformative learning. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Okay. Before I summarize, I'd like to please ask that if you have any questions, please quickly just post them on the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask your question. I'm trying to check yes. While you're doing that, let me just share with you some of the points that I am taking away as we continue to increase our competencies, taking into consideration the Dave Orridge model. We should remember that we can coach anyone and anything. We can using the GROW model, which has been aptly described by TA. Okay, another thing she mentioned, which really resonated with me, is the John Whitmore, the John Whitmore position on performance being equal to potential minus interference. And that is so key, because a lot of the time as HR professionals, sometimes we are interfering. Sometimes the organization is interfering, and yet we're expecting our people to deliver. Okay, so we need to put that into consideration. Okay, we've got to coach the problem, not the we've got to coach the person, not the problem. The person is not the behavior. Somebody behaves in a certain way. That's not who they are. That's just something that has happened that we need to contextualize and then see how we can basically, coach the person out of that situation. Okay, the other thing I also I'm taking away is that as HR managers, okay, yeah, I've said that one already. Okay, we as HR managers, or as HR professionals, we do need, I would say, a high level of emotional intelligence, because we need to be self-aware. And this has been extensively discussed today by TA. We can ask powerful questions. I do hope you took a picture of that slide. Otherwise, I know that I'm not sure, but at some point this this session may be available publicly. Lara, please confirm.
I'll send the slides to Lara so she can share.
Right. Yes, thank you.
We've got to ask a recording link.
Okay, we've got to ask powerful questions. It's not enough to demand performance from our people or from the leaders of the business. We've got to ask powerful questions that will set them on a thought-provoking path. And this is part of how we can be effective as HR leaders in the organization. Okay, open-ended questions that are not judgmental. Request non-judgmental questions, reflective questions, and not to ask closed questions. Oh my goodness. I tell you what, if you're not yet a coach, this obviously should help us to start to think, because coaching is every HR professional needs to have coaching skills in this dispensation. I don't know how you're going to cope if you do not, if you're not building your coaching competencies. I'd like to just ask you to, think about that. I'd like to, set you on a thought-provoking, for you to think about that really. and think about how you can develop your coaching skills. The HR Gem, we promote coaching promote coaching on the platform. Feel free to join us, and we can also direct you on how you can start your coaching journey. Do I have any questions in the house? Oh, yes, yes. Chinwe says, coaching is the new normal, and that's totally true. Absolutely. All right, questions in the house? Anyone? I'm not seeing any. Lara, are you seeing anyone? I haven't seen any. Okay.
None yet.
Yes, it means that I'm going to give you just...
Somebody sent me a question.
Okay.
Contacted me and said, I've heard you talk about detached involvement, and I didn't say anything about that. So sorry about that. So when you're coaching, one of the principles of coaching for a coach is we say you have to be detached from whatever is going on with your coachee or your client. So we call it detached involvement. So for example, I'll give you an example. If my client or my coachee or somebody in the office comes and is very emotive, especially because of COVID, and I went through it a few times in the last few months where I had lost people in the family, and things like that. And then, so I'm just coming out of a funeral, and then I go in the next day or 2 days, I'm coaching somebody who just lost someone else, his wife. And at some point, his eyes well up, right? And he's close to tears. And I'm looking at this guy and I really feel like crying too, because in the last 2 weeks, we've buried 3 people, just coming from a funeral myself, that kind of a thing. But detached involvement means you focus so much energy and intensity on your client so going back to that example, at a stage, that guy broke down and was crying. A whole CEO was crying. I felt like crying too, but I just put up a smiley face and I just kept nodding my head. But the next thing is, one of the rules when you want to, it's part of neuro-linguistic programming, I then looked up because I noticed if I kept looking at him or I looked down, the tears would drop from my own eyes as well. Because emotionally, I was still raw, I was still sore. So part of NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, times like that, is just look up at the ceiling and draw energy, from the top or from another source. For me, it's spiritual energy, right? So that's what detached involvement means. Imagine if my client is crying and me too, I'm crying. Me too, I lost somebody. In fact, I lost 2 people last week. In fact, I'm just I'm pulling my client down. They're sinking and I'm helping them sink. Whereas I'm to enable them to rise up from whatever it is they're going through. That's what detached involvement means. So the person has sent a private check to say, does that mean as a coach, I have to have a heart of steel? Well, trust me, I cry. So it doesn't mean as a coach you have to have a heart of steel. It's like saying as an HR person or as an HR director, must you have a heart of steel? Well, yeah, maybe, because kind of you're conditioned, you're wired. I remember those days when we used to do transformation exercises almost like every year. And the MD will call me or they'll call me from Atlanta to say, look, we're only telling the HR directors, we're not releasing it yet, and you have to keep it to your chest. And day by day, I'm passing by the corridor and I'm like, this person is going to be asked to leave, but you're holding it here, right? So I guess our job conditions us, especially as you go up the ladder. And that's where we test our credibility and integrity as HR professionals as well. And in doing that, it develops our muscles. There's a question here saying, how do you balance detached involvement Sorry, these questions are moving. How do you balance detached involvement with being vulnerable as a coach? Okay. So vulnerability, even as a leader. So one of the things in today's leadership is we encourage leaders to be vulnerable, be human. Let's see the human side of you. Let's see
Yeah,
the humane side of you. And
yeah,
how do we ask you to demonstrate it? It's by learning to say, I goofed, I messed up. Oh, I don't have a clue. Just be honest. And oh, by the way, I say that how many times over? So one of the things I'd like to say is my HR team has always promoted me in all my careers
yeah.
because I learned to say, guys, I don't have a clue, or I'm
Mm,
too tired to think, I need help. Help me. So that's being
yes,
vulnerable, being able to be honest enough, especially when you don't know or when you've goofed or when you need help,
yeah,
right? So balancing that with detached involvement. So there are times I'm coaching and the client asks me a question. I remember coaching is not about telling. So as much as possible, and that's a big shift for those of us in HR because they always come to us for answers.
absolutely.
And so we're always giving advice. But when we coach, I think it took me, so I started coaching when I was in Coca-Cola, and it took me well about 3 years to perfect the art of not telling, because all my years I've known how to tell gladly, proudly, you know. So detached involvement, balancing it is when your client then asks you, so how do you feel right now? Or do you feel like crying? So the CEO I was talking about, he said, oh, Tia, your eyes are red. I'm sure you feel like crying as well. I said, yes, honestly, but I'm trying hard not to. He goes, why? I said, because I need you to be strong. And he goes, hmm. And he quickly took his handkerchief and wiped his face. Does that
Yeah,
answer the question? I hope so.
absolutely. Here we have another question here. And it says, is there a place for directing even while leading with a coaching mindset?
Well,
And I suppose this is speaking to leader as a manager as coach.
yes, it depends. Oftentimes, so I'm sure as HR professionals, we're familiar with what I call situational leadership, in the sense that you wear a different hat depending on the person you're dealing with or the situation you're dealing with, right? Or even in fact the environment. I just spoke about, when I go on some of my work assignments in Ethiopia, from the plane I start psyching myself to remind myself that I'm in a different culture, different environment, different people. So do in Rome as the Romans do. So yes, there are moments for directing whilst leading. But again, there are two things I do as a coach. If I want to direct or advise, I take permission. I say, permit me to take off my coaching hat. Or I want to take off my coaching hat and then put on my consulting hat. Or during COVID, because I'm also a trained counselor, I say, permit me to take off my coaching hat and put on my counseling hat, you know. So that may work in moments like that. But yes, a leader as a coach, yeah, a leader is directive, but I want to shift that leader's mindset quickly to let that leader know that we have moved from the age of command and control, right? So that's why the directing leadership style will not work. So, if you are directing, you direct maybe a greenhorn, but like you do show and tell, like Montessori, and things like that. But as they're maturing in your team or in the organization, no, you don't go on directing. They'll become resentful. And that's what's happening to a lot of us with millennials. I learned it from my children. My children are millennials and a zillennial, right? That's why they resist us in the workplace, because we're not speaking their language. We're treating them as dogs rather than human beings, rather than co-creators, rather than co-inventors. Yeah. Dorothy, you're muted.
Sorry about that. We have another question which says, what happens when you have a manager who seems heady, always having justifiable excuses and never performing or something like that? I can't see this very well. Yes. Yes. Oh, always. Yes. It says, what happens when you have a manager who always seems heady, having justifiable excuses, but never performing, and never ready to accept mistakes?
Okay. I mean, in those days, you know, in my coaching life, I developed some questions that are chronically unique for Nigerians. So one of the questions I developed was that, you know, because people justify their non-performance and they're always quick to point fingers. And one of the questions I developed is, how is this behavior serving you? People will say, just a second, let me just close my door. My husband and I are in the office coming from the wedding.
Okay.
He's getting more engaged in his conversations. So I ask Nigerians, how is this serving you? How is this behavior serving you? Or I say things, for how much longer will you tolerate yourself with this excuse? And I love Nigerians. Questions like that. They say, The one that understands Yoruba or French or whatever, now becomes the universal language. And in NLP, there's what we call mirroring. Times like that, they say, me too, I say, you know, and so they're jarred, you know, and I repeat it again, and then they begin to talk, and it's like, or they say, what do I mean? I say, I don't know, you are the one that appears not to want to move forward because you think justifiably this behavior is serving you. And then they can react and say, oh, no, it's not serving me. I haven't been promoted for 4 years, or my colleagues, you know, said, okay. So again, I go to G. So what would you really like? Where would you really like to see yourself? If your colleagues that you started with have been promoted 4 levels ahead of you, what do you really want? How do you think you can get there? Because what got you here will not get you there. And then that shift starts immediately.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And this last question, Lara, I'd like you to take this last question. He says, how do I become an ICF certified coach? Steps and requirement, please. In 1 minute, Lara. And you're on mute.
Yeah, oh, okay. All right. So to become an ICF certified coach, there is a process. What I would ask that you do is please drop your details and we'll share that with you. We are just a learning community. I always tell people we don't certify people to become coaches. What we do is to create awareness on the benefits of coaching. And of course, we sort of share our own experience from coaching. So we do not certify, but you can also go on their website, I think www.internationalcoachfederation.com, and then look for Nigeria chapter. Their contact is there as well. But however, you can drop your details and we'll reach out to you.
If I may add, we have some of our certified coaches who run programs or schools for coaching, education, and certification, whereas some of us just pride ourselves in going into organizations to specifically teach the leaders about coaching, coaching skills, and imbibing them into their day-to-day employee practice. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh my God, when you're having so much fun, you don't know, you never
time flies.
Time has gone. I would, Auntie Tia, yes, Auntie Tia, thank you so.
I'm just here. So
all right.
the wedding we had this morning, there was a young niece I hadn't seen, and she called me Auntie Mommy Tia. Then her mom corrected her and said, no, it's Grandma Auntie Mommy Tia. And I thought, okay, just call me Tia.
Tia, thank you so much. I'd like to call on Toba Best to give the vote of thanks. Before I do that, I know that you all have had a fantastic session of learning this evening. Now, as Toba gives the vote of thanks, I'd like you to quickly just keep on typing in the chat box. What have you learned today? What are you taking with you? All right. So Toba, I'd like to please bring Toba Best on the call now to give the vote of thanks.
Star Toba Best.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for this wonderful section. I want to, first of all, appreciate Coach Lara for organizing us, for bringing us together, for us to have this wonderful mommy to come and talk to us, you know. I think this will be the fourth time that we hear her speak, and she's always ready to speak. Thank God that she even used slide today. If not, you can say things and you write. Just imagine, see my everything that I've just been putting together, just writing, even though that I have the slide. I'm grateful, ma. Thank you so much. Thank you for joy. Thank you for helping us. And most especially, I know you spoke so many things that touched me, but most especially the aspect of growth coaching model. Wow, there's no way you can help someone if not letting the person to know about, to have the awareness of the challenges that the person is actually facing. So many of us are facing so many challenges that we don't even know. Then hit the person to take responsibility. Carry the person to take responsibility. In fact, Ma, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Thank you and you know this is your home. I know very soon now you'll be very busy, but this is your home. We always want to see you. We always call upon you to come and talk to us. Thank you so much.
One more.
And thank you, everyone.
The commitment to Lara still stands.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. We are grateful. Thank you, Coach Lara. Thank you so much. We are grateful. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you. God bless you. We are grateful. Thank you.
All right.
So much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Look forward to seeing you at our next session. Have a wonderful evening. You can unmute, please, and say thank you. And bye.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. God bless you.
Really enjoy the training session.
Bless you.
Bless
Thank
you.
you. Fantastic session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. On that note, so much. And please enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you
so much, Coach Lara, for putting this together.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, then. Well, I'm going to buy myself some ice cream.
You do deserve some. Please go ahead.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Parts are being played out there now by the players. Happy with that challenge. Correct or forward to